I don't know if maybe Nacho slept through the run or what's going on there, but that's what we're here for. So
Just fill
we're
the
just,
dead
we're
air.
just we're just filler is what we are. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I can't believe we worked our way into the marathon.
We did it.
How are we going to get zooming into AGDQ?
What? No. Not with that showing.
I mean, lawnmower happened.
Yeah. All right. I think our Mega Man X5 runner is ready to go. Yeah, we're loading up the stream right now. So
Alright, that was a taste of Wrecking Crew.
thank you for sharing,
Thanks,
No
Poochie,
problem.
coming on.
saving the stream, Mr. Poochie D.
Alright, everyone go watch my channel for more Metal Gear. See ya.
See ya.
Bye, Poochie.
I'm gonna switch audio over to him and do an audio test, and we'll be ready.
Okay. Hello? Is this working?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
Cool. Alright, audio check. I think we're good? Alright. Gain volume a little bit, sure. Okay, does that sound okay? Okay, cool. So yeah, let me know when you're good to go and I can, okay. Okay, so I'll count from 3. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is X5, I'm Orsa. So the first thing about this game is, if you're familiar with the X games but not this one, you might notice there's a character select at the beginning. You can pick between X and 0 at pretty much any time throughout the game before a stage. We're going to be using 0 for 90% of the game because he's generally faster. The movement in this game is just dash jumping. You can jump out of a dash at any time and it maintains your forward momentum, as opposed to just regular dashing, which decelerates you. Intro stage is pretty self-explanatory. It's mostly just movement, dodging enemies, and getting hit by falling rocks that I shouldn't be getting hit by. So we're coming up on the first boss. He's a really good example of the primary form of combat in this game, which is saber dash canceling or slash dash canceling. The way this works is bosses in this game generally don't get iframes from the first or second hit of Zero's saber combo. And you can cancel the saber animation at any time by dashing during it. And then you can also cancel the dash animation with another saber swing. So it's going to be like rhythmically just mashing back and forth between saber and dash, and it shreds bosses pretty fast. So intro boss is a little bit random here, and I got the bad pattern. You can see I took off about half his health bar in one cycle though. I got dropped a really bad pattern. Dang.
I'd just like to thank whoever donated to make the donation total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Real quick, if we have a second, we have a $1.63 donation from Rot8 with no comment, and that number does seem a little random, but as Golden said, that brings our total up to 1234.56. Good number.
God bless. Alright, so I think one of the best parts about this game as a speedrun is the routing. Compared to the other X games, this game is really complicated in terms of the sheer number of mechanics it has. So there's a lot of things like boss levels, there's a parts system, there's like all sorts of things that make this game complicated to route. So we're going to be starting with Burn Dino Rex. And I should say I'm going to be using the Japanese names rather than the localized names because they're just generally better. But the reason we're starting with Dino Rex is because the early part of this route revolves around getting a part called Hyperdash, which greatly increases your dash and dash jump speed. However, we can't just go to the boss that drops it because we need to raise the boss levels. Bosses will only drop parts if they're at level 8 or higher. And the fastest way to raise boss levels is to increase your hunter rank, which you do that just by doing well on a stage. It's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to concentrate here just for like 30 seconds because this part's really important to do well. I missed the fast cycle there, but that's okay. Things that contribute to your hunter rank are like going fast in a stage, not taking damage, all those sorts of things. And Dino Rex is one of the easiest stages to go fast in to get your rank up. You can get a faster cycle here and break one of the walls faster, but I missed it. It costs about 8 seconds, but it shouldn't mess up my rank as long as I do the rest of the stage well. One more lava cycle. And then we're on to the second half. I think the second half of the stage is the part I always see newer runners struggle with. This is one of the ride armor sections. The reason this part is so hard is because taking damage in the ride armor counts towards damage taken throughout the stage. So if you don't know where these guys that are flying on the screen are going to come from exactly, you're going to take a lot of damage in this stage. It's going to be really detrimental to your rank. Jerk bats there, but they're pretty easy to dodge. Alright, so you can see when Dino Rex pops on screen here, he has a little level below his health bar. He's level 3. If I get GA rank here, which is the rank I'm aiming for, that will raise the level of the next boss I fight by 4. And then every time you beat a boss, boss levels automatically increase by 1. So 3 plus 1 plus 4 is 8, which is exactly where we want to be. If you're not familiar with the story of this game, also, the story plays a big part in the mechanics of how the game works. The story is that Sigma is trying to crash an orbiting space colony into the Earth to spread the Sigma virus everywhere. And there are 2 ways that the hunters have to possibly destroy it. One is with a giant cannon, and one is by piloting a shuttle into it. And we'll be using both of those, possibly both, at some point throughout the run, because destroying the colony is the fastest way to open the Sigma stages. so now that we have bosses at level 8, we can go to Grizzly here. He drops Hyper Dash after you beat him. So we want to pick that up as soon as possible. This stage is actually really fun. I'm a big fan of this stage. The gimmick is that there's a line of Maverick trucks that are going to a warehouse where the boss is, and you have to destroy them all and platform to the front of the convoy. Luckily, Matrix's weapon, which we just picked up, that right there, is very useful in destroying these trucks since they don't have any iframes. You just kind of one-hit them all really quickly. And this one's already blowing up, so you just got to platform across it. I should also say this category is technically an any percent category, even though we're doing all stages. So none of the items are required. I will be picking up this E-Tank here. Doesn't really waste any time, and it makes the boss really, really safe. Or the final boss, I should say, really, really safe. Okay. So for Grizzly, there's actually a strat for this boss, unlike most other bosses in the game. Because Grizzly likes to dive off screen, which wastes about 5 seconds per dive. But you can prevent him from doing this by manipulating his health bar. The idea here is when he's jumping in between platforms, I want to be taking a big chunk out of his health. Since if he's below about a third HP, he won't dive. So hopefully I can get this. Okay. If I had SDC'd any slower there or messed up at all, he would have gone off screen and wasted about 5-6 seconds. But that was a good fight. Okay, so once we've beaten him, at the end of every stage, once the bosses are level 4, we get a choice between life and energy here. And if they're level 8 or higher, one of these choices will also give you a part. So we pick energy, which will give us hyper dash in 2 stages. We can equip it in the next 2 stages. But after defeating the 2nd and the 6th Mavericks, you have to fight this guy, his name's Dynamo. He's basically just like a plot element. He's the one who dropped the colony. He's not important. He'll be around for about 10 combined seconds for both fights. But this is good that this stage is placed here because this counts as one of the stages that you need to kind of go through in order to get that part. So we can have hyper dash without having to do a platforming stage. Okay, so there's the Dynamo fight. Music's really good here, but yeah, he's gone. And the second time will be even quicker than that, so. Okay, so that's one stage down. So we need to do another stage in order to kind of, but we don't want it to be heavy on platforming because it'll be slow. So we're going to do the infamous Duff McWhalen or Title McOheen next. So rev up those resident sleepers because they're going to be really important for this stage. If you're not familiar with this stage is essentially a 6-minute auto-scroller with some mid-bosses thrown in between them. So there's not a whole lot to say here. You guys get any donations? This would be a great time to read them.
Let me check real quick. I will say Duff McWhalen, probably one of the best named robot
It's pretty
masters
great.
ever.
Yeah.
We don't have any new donations, but I could take the time to plug JRTA.
Sure, go for it.
Alright, so this is JRTA. We are a community-driven marathon for the purpose of bringing 2 Japanese runners, McCord, who was just on about an hour ago playing Mr. Gimmick, and Mohan to AGDQ. Both of them have confirmed runs in the marathon, and we'd like to ease their travel expenses from Japan, as it is quite expensive, as you might expect. Our goal is to raise $4,500 for them, And thanks to generous donations from viewers like you, we are already at the wonderful number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So, one of the things I could talk about, I guess, is I picked up Grizzly's weapon, which is this pizza cutter slash thing, and also the double jump. You might think the pizza cutter slash is really useful for clearing out enemies, but it's actually not that useful. And the reason is because it's really, really laggy. So I'm going to attempt to not use it anywhere I can. Most of the stage is lag reduction and proper mid-boss setups. I should also say, if you're familiar with X2, you probably recognize the music here. The music in the stage is a remix of Bubble Crab from X2. X5 actually has a lot of references to previous Mega Man games, and there actually is a reason for that. This game was originally intended to be the last game in the Mega Man X series, and Inafune wanted to move on to what would eventually become the Zero series. So the development team thought it would be fun to fill this game with references to previous Mega Man games. You can also see I positioned myself there to SDC that boss right up against it. The reason for that is because the first frame of Zero's hitbox, Saber hitbox, is directly above him. So if you're standing inside an enemy hitbox and you turn around, you can just kind of mash it out rather than having to time it. Yes, I will be trying to point out references to Mega Man games where they happen, like these fish are straight out of Launch Octopus's stage for next one. Also, yeah, this, Terex brought up a point. This, the Bubble Crab remix wasn't the original music for the stage. They actually did compose a whole new song for this stage, but they ended up not using it. It's on YouTube if you've never heard it, it's quite good. But yeah, Baron's right, it's a lot slower, and you'd probably fall asleep even more during the stage. Stay going with it. Okay, so here you're going to see me doing something a little bit different for this mid-boss. So instead of SDCing there, instead of canceling the first hit, I'm canceling the second hit. And the reason for that is because this mid-boss is one of the few enemies in the game that takes additional damage from the second hit of Zero's combo as opposed to the first. So that's a technique known as SSDC, or //dash cancel. It's a lot more useful in X4 than it is here, but we use it a couple times. And this last one is... this is the last one. So you can destroy these guys with Quake Blazer, but I generally don't for two reasons. One, because it's a little bit laggy, and two, because dodging the projectiles actually gives you something to do. Yeah, in the second auto-scroller it's scrolling down, but if you fall past the platforms you don't die, you just kinda hover there. And I'm getting eaten by these fish. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask. So I assume Zero is in the preferred category because of SDC, but are there many people who run Mega Man, or is it...
So in this game, we don't differentiate between X and Zero runs because you can switch between them at any point. And we will actually be using X later. So the major category is just called All Stages. We don't really have an X or a Zero category. Alright, so this one, just want to get a one cycle here, because the shield does pop back up, and I got the one cycle, so that's good. So this boss actually has an interesting phenomenon in the X series. I have Duff McWillen's weakness. It's the pizza cutter slash from Grizzly, but I'm not going to be using it, and the reason for that is because every time you hit him with his weakness, he gets a lot of iframes, like a solid second or two. So instead I'm going to be using Quake Blazer. It does the exact same amount of damage, but doesn't give him like massive iframes. Oh, whoops. Okay. one too many Quake Blazers there, but that's okay. Still a fine fight. Alright, so there's 2 stages, so we're going to be picking up Hyper Dash here. And the run kind of takes off from here, like your movement speed increases and you have a few new techniques to work with, so the movement gets a lot more interesting from this point out. I pick up energy here, and that will give me an item called W Energy Saver in 2 stages, which increases the efficiency of my sub-weapons so I can spam them a little bit more, which will be useful later on. And we're going to be going to Spike Rose Red next. He drops, one of the parts he drops is Z Saber Plus, which significantly increases the amount of damage your saber does, so you want to pick this up pretty quickly. 4 is optimal, like right after you get Hyper Dash. And you can see just how quickly, like how much faster I am in this stage. The stage goes by really quickly. I should also say that recently we started timing this game by in-game time, just to be able to compare versions. So if you look at the leaderboard in this game and you're a little confused on the timing layout, that's why. Because we've been recently migrating over to in-game time, just because it allows more versions to be compared, which increases competition, which is always good. So this boss is really straightforward. It's just dodges attacks in SDCM. I'm a big fan of the bosses in this game because they're generally not that big a deal. Most of the emphasis on this run is on the movement, which I'm a big fan of personally. Okay, so the vine attack will grab you and stun you for a couple seconds. So I'm just damage boosting behind him to be able to SDC him without getting hit by that. Alright, now we pick up energy here for Saber Plus. Alright, next we're going to Dark Dizzy, or Dark Necrobat, I think it is. He's Shade Man from Mega Man 7. He's literally Shade Man. Alright, so this stage is actually super duper laggy in the original version, which is what I'm playing on. I'm playing on the PS1. So, every time the constellations pop up in this stage, you get a massive amount of lag here. If you guys have the X collection on the PS2 or the GameCube, all the lag in the stage is removed, which you'd think would make it more ideal for speedrunning, but the in-game timer actually slows down with lag, so it's entirely consistent no matter what version you're using. It's completely comparable. Okay, so this is kind of cool here. There's a text trigger on top of this platform, but it doesn't extend all the way down. So I can actually skip a whole text box there just by going under the platform instead. But then you do have to end up waiting for the platform anyway, so. And you can see I'm using Axel the Red's weapon here, or Spike Rose Red, Twin Dream. And the reason for that is because no matter what move you're copying, it is completely lagless, so. Obviously it doesn't matter here, but I just do it out of habit. Okay, and then the second half of the stage has some Mega Man 5 references in it. Has the gravity flipping things from Gravity Man. And we're on the the boss. So Necrobat can kind of, he can waste your time a little bit. Basically he starts up, and he can either come down or just bounce across the screen while staying up. If he stays up, that's not ideal, because you want him to come down to be able to SDC him, but... It's a perfect pattern, so it's good. Solid. Alright, so after the 5th Maverick, there's a short cutscene. It's just dialogue. It's nothing really important in a speedrun. Also, at this point, we have almost every part we need to complete the game successfully, so the part choice between life and energy doesn't really matter at this point. I'll just be taking life, so I have the maximum amount of health for the endgame, which is useful. Lets me damage boost a little bit more. Okay, so next up is my personal favorite Maverick from this game. Shining Hotoranicus, I think, is the name, but it translates as Firefly, I'm pretty sure. Or Izzy Glow, if you're in the English version. The beginning of the stage has a little bit of RNG to it. There's some chandeliers that go up and down and block your path, but the only cycle we need to make isn't actually random, so as long as your movement's good, you won't lose any time to this section. So I should say we picked up from Dark Dizzy a weapon called Dark Hold, which is essentially a time stop weapon, exactly in the same vein as like Mega Man 2 or any of its ilk. So we're going to be using it here to hold the chandeliers in place. And this is the cycle. This is the one we need to get across here. Okay, and then similarly we're going to be using Dark Hold on this screen in order to freeze all the enemies in place. I ran into one anyway, solid. Okay, so this boss is an auto-scroller, essentially. You can't really lose time here. So, if you guys have anything you want to say, this is a really good time for it.
I actually had a question about the category.
Oh, absolutely.
You mentioned this was in all stages.
Yes.
So is any percent more like 0-1 where you just kind of intentionally skip missions? Or
Yes.
is it like
Okay, so this is a really good time to point this out. I mentioned earlier that the plot of this game is that there's a colony that's like trying to crash into Earth. And so you're collecting parts to empower a cannon and a shuttle in order to give it the greatest chance of success to destroy the colony. However, you can launch those at any time, like literally any time. You can just go to the main menu and launch the cannon and the shuttle. They have very low chances of success, but they are non-zero with no parts. So any percent of this game basically defeats the intro boss, immediately launches the cannon and the shuttle. If they succeed, you go to the Sigma stages and finish the game. If they fail, you reset. It's a pretty solid category, and it's the reason all stages is way preferred in the community.
Right, that also sounds hilariously marathon, I'd say.
Yes. I think the cannon has like a 5 to 10% chance of success with no parts. Shuttle's slightly higher, but still no more than 20. Okay, so for Izzy is actually the only boss we don't SDC. Well, you can SDC him, but it's a little bit random because he teleports around a lot. It's a lot safer to just go for air slashes on him, so I'll be doing that. I was going to use Twin Dream, but I didn't have it equipped. So we'll just do it the old way. so that's the 6th Maverick. So we have a Dynamo confrontation coming up. Thankfully, this is the 2nd stage after Axel, so we're going to have Saber Plus, which will make Dynamo even more of a joke than he was before. Yeah, Peapod has... The bad part about this game is even with all 4 parts, with the cannon and the shuttle, they can both still fail. And if they both fail, then 0 goes Maverick, and you lose the ability to play as 0 for the rest of the game. So that does have a chance of happening here. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, I do have a safety save prepared so we can actually finish the run. Peapod, it's random. The shuttle has about an 85 to 90% chance of success with all 4 parts. So you have about a 10% chance of failure. The funny part about this Dynamo fight is he actually has a new attack, which if he gives it to me, it's even easier to just STC him. Let's see if he gives it. Nope. He can just go in the corner and kind of do like a Giga attack sort of thing, but you can just stand in front of him, like there's a spot in front of him where you don't get hit by his projectiles, so you literally just stand in front of him and STC him. So there goes Dynamo. He's gone. You never see him again in X5. He does come back in X6 actually, but he's gone from the game for now. Okay, so next up is Squid Adler or Volt Kraken. I think this stage is pretty infamous from what I've seen. This is the bike section that a lot of people tend to struggle with. So the way this bit works is there's orbs scattered throughout the stage that if you collect all 8 of them, you unlock an armor capsule, basically. But if you don't get any of them, you get to skip an alley text box. So I'm going to be attempting to dodge them all, which is a little bit harder than it sounds. There's one in particular that is placed in a really difficult way to dodge it. But I got it, so... if the cannon and the shuttle both fail, you have to play as X for the rest of the game. And since we haven't collected any armors or anything, it's mind-numbingly slow. So the rest of this stage is sort of switch puzzles. There's switches that power doors that you have to close in order to move through. Most of this stage is taking advantage of our new energy saver, which allows us to spam the Giga attack that we picked up from Izzy Glow. The Giga attack refills whenever you take damage, so you'll see me taking a little bit of damage here in order to refill it near the end. There's also a clip coming up, and it's one of the only things that I would consider like a glitch in this game. The way this works is I'm going to crush myself intentionally against the wall, and that is going to allow me to dash through the gate. And the reason I can do that is because this game has a mechanic in place where if you get crushed by an object, it allows you to move through it for a couple seconds, mostly to prevent you from just getting stuck in like soft locking sort of. But for whatever reason, if you get crushed against that wall, the game considers the gate as part of the wall and lets you move through it if you're fast enough. Okay, so here is Mr. Squid, Mr. Kraken. He's pretty straightforward actually. You want to just air slash him while he's in the air, and when he comes down, just to see him. Okay, so there's 7 Mavericks. So now we've completed all 4 Maverick stages that give us parts for the Enigma cannon. So after this, the game will automatically fire the cannon. If the cannon succeeds, we'll be going on to the Sigma stages. If the cannon fails, we actually won't be doing the final Maverick yet. And the reason for that is because the final Maverick, the Skyver, or Spiral Pegasian, his technique that you get for 0 prevents you from being able to SDC because the input is just slash while you're dashing. So it actually removes your ability to SDC. So you want to do Skyver right before we go to the last stage to minimize time loss there. Okay, cannon failed. That's fine. So now we're going to be launching the shuttle and hoping that that succeeds. There's a lot of text to mash through here because they have to introduce the other 4 Mavericks first. For whatever reason, the developers intended for you to be doing the 4 Mavericks on the left side first. This game followed Mega Man 8's tradition of having 2 cycles of weaknesses instead of 1 big one. Sort of. It's a little complicated, but that's essentially the idea. Alright, so hopefully this works. Of course. Alright, I'm just gonna load my save then. So the good thing is you can tell immediately if the shuttle succeeded or failed, just by the first screen you get. So it's a pretty fast reset. I think it's actually faster to reset and load the save than it is to let the shuttle cutscene play out. Obviously that's not legit for an attempt, but... Alright, so I have a save prepped for right after the shuttle success, so we'll be going there. Alright, so... Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, is there any difference between the cannon and the shuttle succeeding?
Since we use in-game time, no, because in-game time discounts all text and stage selects and that sort of thing. So, not in the slightest. RTA is about a minute, though. Okay, so this is Sigma 1. We got some nice quickband lasers going on here. Just like in Mega Man 1, you can use Dark Hold to stop the lasers, but that wastes about 2 seconds because there's like an animation to do it, so I'm just going to skip that. And we come to my favorite boss in the entire game. So we have, first off, we have a nice Mega Man 1 reference here with we have a devil fight and we have a remix of the music from Mega Man 1. We also have Shadow Devil. This guy is really obnoxious casually and really obnoxious in a speedrun for 2 completely different reasons. He's obnoxious in a casual run because he does a lot of damage, and he's hard to handle if you don't know the corner hugging strat. Oops, I'm messing this fight up. But he's obnoxious in a speedrun because he can spawn his eye in like one of 6 different spots, and like 2 of them are low enough to SDC. So if he gives you those, he dies really, really fast, and if he doesn't, he dies not nearly as fast. The strat I use, if I do it correctly, guarantees a 3 cycle, but I've messed it up both times, so... And 3 times in a row, alright. Solid. Flirting with death a little bit here, but that's okay. He can also do this. This is annoying if you're not corner hugging. But in a speedrun, all it really serves to do is waste about 10 seconds. So I am actually going to E-tank here just to be safe, because he can... Oh, I don't have any tank. I'm not going to E-tank here. Okay. So that's Shadow Devil. This guy is the worst part of running this game by a lot. So, but he's gone now, so the rest of the game is fun. I lost like a full minute of in-game time on my PV there. Just the boss luck. Alright, so Virus 2 is actually my favorite stage in the game. This stage is really fast and combines a lot of really cool weapon usage. So here goes. Hopefully I can do it well. Alright, good. Good. That was really good. Alright, so this boss, for those of you familiar with X1, you'll probably recognize this boss. It's a little bit different than he was in X1 now. Here he has one blue eye, one green eye, one red eye, and the nose. So his health bar is in quarters approximately. Part of the reason I really enjoy this fight is because it's you have to be very knowledgeable and be able to react quickly to what's going on in the fight. Because the fight is really fast paced. And if you want to go fast, you have to be able to know exactly what pattern you're going to get and recognize how to deal with it. That was an okay pattern. Okay, so on to Virus 3. Now we're gonna be switching gears a little bit here, and we're gonna be using X. And for those of you familiar with X5, you probably know the reason. For those of you not familiar with X5, you'll see it pretty quickly. So I mentioned that doing Skyver prevents you from being able to SDC after it. So we need some other way to deal with the endgame. Luckily, X5 has a nice fat armor capsule in this stage if you come in with unarmored X. It will give you ultimate armor. Ultimate armor is ridiculously overpowered in this game. So that's how we're going to be dealing with the endgame instead of using Zero. So go down here. There's this nice capsule here. The fastest run in this game is a 53:11 real time. It's 24:25 in game, and that's my PB. Unfortunately, this game does not give you the ultimate armor immediately. You have to actually go back to the main menu or the stage select to use it. So we do have to actually beat the boss here with X. Fortunately, that's not too difficult. It's exactly the same as it is in X4, except it's actually, you can actually get it without using a cheat code. So we have Zero here. Zero's not very well programmed in this game. Alright, so you pretty much just pattern lock him. And I'm abusing the quick charge part that I picked up from Adler. It about halves my buster charge time.
So does Zero have a Robot Master weakness, or is the fastest way to fight him just
I
charge
have
Buster
no
shots?
idea, honestly. I know the fastest way to fight him is charge buster shots, but I don't know if he actually has a weakness or not. Alright, so now we just have to go back and clean up Skyver, and then we'll go on to the last stage in the game. Okay, so we are going to, even though we have ultimate armor, we're going to use Zero for Skyver. It is faster, and once we get to the boss, you'll see why. I'm not going to spoil it. So I'm really torn on this stage, actually, whether I like it or not. The first half of the stage is actually really fun. The gimmick is that there's like time bombs everywhere, and you have to destroy them quickly. And this is like a lot like Virus 2. It's like really fast with a lot of varied weapon usage. So this part's fun, but the rest of the stage after this part is not as fun. As the rest of the stage is comprised of slow-moving elevators and auto-scrollers. Which is unfortunate, but... This stage is X5 in a nutshell to me though. It's like 70% like really fun, really like fast game, and then like 30% auto-scrollers. Okay, so here's another elevator. And then after this we got bombs first, and we got elevators, and then last we have bombs and elevators, because of course we do. I'm using 0 because I haven't lost the ability to SDC yet, not until I defeat this boss, and using 0 here is faster than using ultimate armor. The normal icon in the bottom left, that's a good question. It doesn't come up in the speedrun at all, but in casual games you see these Sigma viruses that are flying around. If you get hit by too many of them, you go into virus mode, which does different things for X or 0. 0 regains all of his health. There's a Sigma virus. 0 regains all of his health and turns invincible for a little bit, and X rapidly takes damage. It's supposed to be like a story thing with like 0 being the origin of the 0 virus or something like that, but it only really comes up in any percent. So Skyver's weakness is Darkhold, so I switched to it already, and you can probably guess exactly what is going to happen in this stage. Oops. Yeah, that's why. You can't actually... X has the same thing with Darkhold, but you can't actually Nova Strike while you're using Darkhold, so STCing is way faster. Yeah, the amount of viruses you take also affects your Hunter rank. Alright, so on to Sigma's Disco. The stage is like, I don't know, like, the background for this stage is just like one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And it's about to tank the bitrate, so I apologize for that. You have to stream at like 3 or 4K bitrate to see what's going on in this stage. So the ultimate armor has a very high defense, you take very little damage from bosses, and it also lets you Nova Strike indefinitely. That's a Nova Strike right there. It makes you invincible, and it also deals, I think, 12 damage to bosses. So it makes most of the bosses pretty straightforward, except for this one. This is another spot I see a lot of new runners struggle with, because it's very, very easy to die in this refight if you don't know what you're doing. Oops. Like that. Okay. I'm gonna pretend I was demonstrating what can go wrong there. Alright, let's try that one more time, with less spiky death. Okay. Alright, much better. Yeah, just a demonstration, of course. What better way to show what I'm talking about than just to do it? So Skyver actually can kill you too, and the reason for this is because when he's diving, if he hits you, you get knocked back pretty far. You can see there's these little pits on either side of the arena. So if he hits you and you're by one of those pits, that's pretty much just death. Gosh, I'm missing Novas all over the place today. Okay. Yeah, so those are the only two bosses that can really kill you. The rest of them are just minor optimizations, right? Like, you can use walls to cancel your Nova animation, not taking damage on bosses to get hit stun, all those sorts of things. But most of these are pretty straightforward.
So what's the reasoning behind the order of the refights? Just taking those two out first because they can kill you?
Yep. There's no real order that people do different orders. This is just the one I do. There really isn't an optimal order for the refights. Part of the reason this route is nice is because it leads you directly into the path of health. So like if you go Skyver and then back towards the other Mavericks, you can grab health after the fourth one. Which is useful because these fights have a lot of damage boosts involved. While it's hard to die, it's not impossible.
I also noticed the bosses are significantly higher level.
Yes, that is something I don't know why they did. The bosses are forced to be max level for the refights, no matter what your hunter rank is, which makes them take a lot longer to defeat. Should say this game does have a difficulty slider, and if you set the difficulty to easy, this doesn't happen. Which is a little bizarre, but it also removes a lot of other interesting parts of the game, so I would not recommend playing this game on easy. The run is faster on easy, but the run is also boring on easy, so nobody really runs it. All the bosses are the minimum level. They're all level 3 no matter what on easy. You can sort of see here how I'm novaing into the wall intentionally rather than going back the other way in order to cancel my animation. Just minor time saves here that actually add up to a lot over the course of the refights. Yeah, 2 more. Firefly's actually really obnoxious, his refight, because he teleports around a lot. So he can waste a fair bit of time. So if he gives me a good pattern, then you won't see him teleport that much. Because he does a thing here where, we call it, he butt lasers in the community, right here. And he can do a bunch of butt lasers, which he didn't do, rather than going into another teleport phase. And obviously that's optimal because he's not teleporting around, so... Rule of thumb is the more butt lasers the better, but I only got one, so... Oh well. And then lastly, this one's actually pretty easy because the room is so small. Alright, so those are all the refights. Now we just have Sigma. Before Sigma, we have this nice little platforming section with some more nice callbacks. We have some nice Doritos here. And then last but not least, we got some nice Yoku blocks here. My personal favorite. Okay, and here's Sigma. So Sigma has two forms here. First one, most people call Fabulous Sigma, I think, because he is very much fabulous in this game. He's also got some nice X1 patterns going on here. If you scale the wall at all, he'll do a very similar thing to what Jedi Sigma does in X1, if any of you are familiar with that. Kind of goes up at a diagonal instead of staying on the ground. And then last but not least, Sigma 2. So here's Sigma's weak points on his forehead, but he also has these fists here. The only real tech in this fight is, while he has his fists out, he likes to go wireframe. So destroy one of the fists prevents him from, it pushes him through into the next phase of his attack pattern. And then these purple squares they do a lot of damage, so you kind of want to avoid them. And that's timed, by the way. Time's on the last hit on Sigma.
Just give it, a second for the stream to catch up.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was 54-44.
Yeah, that's alright. I can live with that. Alright, so that's X5. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that was a good looking on Orsa. Thanks for coming out and doing it.
Yeah, sure, of course. So what's next? Mega Man 6, I think?
We have Mega Man 6 race, yeah.
Oh, nice. That should be really good.
Ohan and PB, it's going to be great. Actually, real quick before you go, we did have a donation that asked to be put towards your choice. So,
okay.
What is your choice?
What is the next thing that isn't met?
I believe getting Curly's panties in Cave Story.
Alright, let's do that then.
Alright, sounds good.
Okay, so enjoy 6, guys. Thanks.
yeah, next up is Mega Man 6. While we get that set up, I just want to take a moment to talk about who we are and what we're doing here for anyone who might have walked in during that awesome Mega Man X5 run. This is JRTA. It's a community-driven marathon to bring two of our Japanese friends and speedrunners over to AGDQ, Ohan and McCord. Both of them have confirmed runs in the marathon. Ohan will be running